In a quiet village surrounded by tall pine trees and silver mountains, two children grew up sharing the same dusty road to school. One was a gentle girl named Mira. The other was a lively girl named Celine. They often whispered that fate must have tied their hearts together. Each carried a small, silent sadness. And somehow that shared emptiness made their laughter brighter when they were together. One evening, as the sky turned golden, Celine said quietly, "What if our families became one? What if my mother married your father?" Mira's eyes widened with hope. Then we would truly be sisters. We would never be alone again. Children's wishes are light as feathers, but sometimes they carry farther than anyone expects. Mira's widowed father agreed to marry Celine's mother, Helena. The wedding was simple, beneath a large oak tree. The village smiled. At first, the house was filled with warmth. Helena hugged both girls. Celine and Mira shared a small bedroom, whispering stories late into the night. For a short while, it seemed the world had repaired itself, but happiness can be fragile. Only months after the wedding, Mira's father fell ill. A sickness spread through the valley that winter. Despite every remedy and whispered prayer, he grew weaker. One quiet night, he closed his eyes and never opened them again. The funeral was silent except for the wind. Mira stood beside the grave, her hands trembling, the world feeling much colder. As weeks passed, Helena's voice changed. It grew sharper, impatient. "Mira, why is the kitchen not clean yet? Mira, fetch the water. Mira, scrub the floors again." Celine was kept away from chores. "Your hands are delicate," Helena would say to her daughter. "You must not ruin them." Mira did not complain. She rose before sunrise, worked until her back ached, and slept long after everyone else. One harsh winter morning, Helena opened the door and stared at the endless white snow covering the fields. "Mira," she said coldly, "go into the forest and bring back ripe cherries." Mira blinked in confusion. Cherries? In winter? Helena's eyes hardened. "Did I ask for questions? Bring cherries or do not return." She handed Mira a small basket and a thin scarf. No coat. No boots fit for snow. Just the basket and a piece of stale bread. The forest was silent and heavy with frost. Mira's breath formed clouds in the air as she stepped deeper among the trees. Snow soaked her shoes. Her fingers burned from cold. Still, she walked on. After hours of wandering, when her strength began to fade, she noticed something unusual between the trees. A faint golden light flickered. Curious and desperate for warmth, she followed it. Hidden among snow-covered pines stood a small cottage with smoke rising gently. Mira knocked softly. The door opened to reveal 3 elderly women, each with silver hair braided down their backs. "Child," one of them said, "why are you wandering in such cold?" Mira bowed her head politely. "I was sent to find cherries. I do not expect to succeed. I only wish for a moment of warmth." The women stepped aside and welcomed her inside. The fire crackled brightly. The scent of soup filled the air. "Sit," said another. "But first, would you help us? The snow weighs heavy on our roof." Without hesitation, Mira nodded. She climbed onto the icy roof. Her hands trembled, but she brushed away snow carefully, making sure not to damage the shingles. Each movement hurt, yet she did not complain. When she cleared the final patch of snow, something incredible happened. From beneath the melting frost, branches emerged, blooming with bright red cherries, shining against the white winter sky. Mira gasped softly and picked them carefully, placing them into her basket. When she returned inside, she offered the 3 women a single piece of bread. "It is not much," she said, "but it tastes better when shared." The 3 elderly women exchanged knowing glances. "You have worked without complaint," said the first. "You have shared without hesitation," said the second. "You have spoken gently, even in hardship," said the third. They joined hands and spoke together, their voices echoing like wind through mountains. "For the kindness you carry in your heart, every time you speak, silver petals shall fall from your lips, and your presence shall bring peace wherever you go." Before Mira could respond, the cottage shimmered. The warmth faded. She found herself standing once more in the forest clearing, basket full of cherries. She hurried home. Helena opened the door with disbelief. "You actually found them?" Mira began to explain what had happened. As she spoke, delicate silver petals drifted from her mouth, sparkling as they touched the floor. Celine stared in shock. Helena's eyes filled not with wonder, but greed. Again, she demanded, "Speak again." More petals fell, forming a shining pile at their feet. That night, Helena barely slept. The next morning, she turned to Celine. "You will go to the forest, take a larger basket, bring back more cherries, and whatever blessing your sister received, you will receive twice." Celine, confident and slightly resentful, wrapped herself in a thick coat and marched toward the forest. She found the glowing cottage more quickly than Mira had. This time, the door opened to reveal the same 3 elderly women. "Why are you here?" one asked. "I came for cherries," Celine replied bluntly. "And I expect the same gift you gave my sister." The women observed her silently. "Our roof is heavy with snow," another said calmly. "Will you help us clear it?" Celine frowned. "I did not come here to work. And do you have food to share?" "Yes," Celine said, opening her basket filled with warm bread, cheese, and fruit. She began eating without offering any. The women's eyes grew solemn. "You seek reward without effort," said the first. "You demand kindness without giving it," said the second. "You speak with pride instead of gratitude," said the third. They whispered together, "Then let truth follow your words." Celine felt a sudden chill, but ignored it. She grabbed a handful of cherries that had appeared on the snowy ground and stormed home. "Mother," she began angrily. A black feather fell from her lips. She froze. Another word escaped her mouth, and a small cloud of gray smoke drifted out. With every complaint, ash and feathers spilled onto the floor. Helena gasped in horror. "What have you done?" she cried. Celine screamed in frustration, but the more she shouted, the thicker the smoke grew. In her rage and embarrassment, Helena turned once more toward Mira. "This is because of you. Leave this house. Take your strange blessing and go." Mira's eyes filled with tears, but she did not argue. "I hope one day you find peace," she said softly. A rain of silver petals floated down as she walked away. She wandered beyond the village, unsure where to go. As evening approached, a traveling carriage approached along the snowy road. Inside sat a young duke returning from visiting nearby estates. He noticed the silver petals drifting in the wind and ordered the carriage to stop. When he saw Mira standing alone, he stepped down. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. "No," Mira replied quietly. Silver petals shimmered between them. Intrigued, he listened to her story. Not once did she speak harshly about Helena or Celine. Not once did she complain of her suffering. Instead, she spoke of hope, of forgiveness, of wishing happiness even for those who had wronged her. The Duke saw that her gift was not the petals, it was her heart. He invited her to stay at his estate. Over time, her presence brought harmony to the household. Disputes softened. Servants smiled more easily. Even the Duke himself found a sense of calm he had never known. Eventually, he asked her to remain not as a guest, but as his partner in life. Mira accepted with humility. Years later, her kindness became known across the region. The silver petals that fell from her words were gathered not for wealth, but to decorate hospitals, schools, and homes for the poor. Back in the village, Celine's curse faded only when she learned silence and reflection. And Helena, left with regret, understood too late. That envy destroys faster than winter frost. The story traveled from village to village, whispered beside fireplaces and told to children. True magic is not in gold, nor in jewels, nor in petals that shine. True magic is in the words we choose, the kindness we give, and the humility we carry even in pain. Because in the end, whatever fills the heart will always find its way into the world.